the $100 million that legislators intend to spend?
Yes, I think that's been agreed. It's passed out of the House, it's in the Senate, but that is an amount that both chambers have agreed on, and I'm thrilled with. $100 million in infrastructure is a great start. That will allow us to leverage millions in private sector funding. And Kay, what we'll be able to do also is, I've talked to Secretary Vilsack, there will be funding in USDA, FCC, and then we have additional funding in the infrastructure bill. So there's opportunities for us to supplement the $100 million if we can get that out and get them moving in communities all across the state of Iowa. So it's a great day for Iowans, and I'm really proud that the bill passed unanimously. It's a great example of how we can come together on behalf of our state and on behalf of Iowans, so it's a day to celebrate.
Governor, 80 counties have said that they don't need some or all of their vaccine allocations next week. How many have said that they don't need any of it? And then also, what do you talk about vaccine hesitancy and what can still be done?
Yeah, so this is happening across the country. I don't know the numbers I don't know the number of counties who have said nothing. Kelly can provide that information for you. But we're really looking at May, and we're going to continue to drive Iowans to get vaccinated. And so we're looking at just mobile clinics. We've talked to we've talked to maybe having them available at the Cubs. We've talked to the farmers market. We're just looking for unique ways that we can go to where Iowans are gathering and have a mobile clinic there. And they'll be able to receive a vaccine, but it's also an opportunity to be educated, get some information if they have any questions. It'll just be an all-of-the-above resource. So we're going to continue to encourage Iowans to get vaccinated. We know that it's really important. Our numbers are looking pretty good. We're at about 56%, I think, that have received at least one dose. We've got 92% of Iowans 65 and up that received at least one dose. If you put that in comparison to where we usually average with flu vaccines, and we're a state that does better at that than a lot of the other states, we average about 40% of Iowans that every year get their flu vaccine, and so to be at like 55, 56% is good, but we're hoping we can hit 65. Dave, you asked that question last week, maybe in May and June looking at hitting 75. So those are kind of some metrics, benchmarks that we're putting in place, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to drive those numbers.
So West Virginia's got some incentives for young people in the form of like a savings bond using federal relief money. Are you considering anything like that, a carrot to dangle out there, an incentive to encourage people to get the vaccine?
Our colleges and universities actually put together, my team actually reached out and kind of worked with the chambers and the businesses in some of the communities to offer incentives. Big shout out to Representative Nordman and then and Alex on my staff. The colleges have taken a look at different ways that they could incentivize the students to get the vaccine. So we'll always be looking at different ways that we can really tie in and encourage people to get that done.
Governor, what are you asking lawmakers to do, or what would you like them to do with regard to enabling the spending of American Rescue Plan money
Well,
after they leave town?
Yeah, we don't even have the guidelines yet, Kathy, and so they recognize that. We want to make sure we understand that if we don't know what the guidelines are, it makes it hard to spend the money because we don't want to spend it in the wrong way and then have it clawed back. And so we have worked with the legislators with all of the CARES funding that has come in. A great example is the latest business grant that we implemented through Iowa Economic Development Authority that actually was driven by Representative Losey and Representative Lundgren, both small business owners, and so they had some ideas on how we could additionally help businesses that were still struggling, and so we'll continue to work with them when we get the guidelines, but at this point we don't have the guidelines yet.
Do you think it'll be a similar arrangement like last year where they essentially empower you to spend that money?
I think that both of the leaders have said at this point it would be, we just have to wait and see. They appreciate the way that we've worked together previously, so I don't see anything changing from that perspective, and we'll continue to keep them involved in the process as we move forward. And again, this isn't any different than when the previous administration, it just takes a while to get those guidelines together. And I will tell each of you that even when they got the guidelines done, they changed weekly after that. So it was a moving target for quite a while. It was constantly in flux. I don't really see it probably being any different this time either.
There's a bill moving in the legislature related to vaccine passports, and Representative Holt made some comments as to he had already negotiated some of that language with your office. Did you agree to the current language of that vaccine?
We're going to continue to work with both chambers. It was a place to start. It was language that we had agreed on, but we'll continue to work with both the House and Senate and see where we end up. I was really happy that it passed with bipartisan support out of committee. I think that's a really good start. So, we'll continue those conversations and see where we end up. Somebody was asking.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you on I think you said 65% is kind of what you're shooting for as far as vaccinated people. I mean, I just would like to gauge your level of comfort with where we are, where we're headed, and if you think we're going to get to a point where it truly is safe in Iowa to
Well, I think
unmask
we're
it.
there every day. I think, more and more Iowans are getting vaccinated. If you take a look at people that have had COVID, we're going to continue, as you heard me say, to do everything I can to encourage people to get vaccinated. We're going to be anywhere and everywhere. My team is working with United Way, we're working with Embark, we're working with communities, we're working with local public health. We're taking a look at events that are happening across the state and we're trying to tie into them. They're working on that this week. The level of calls that they have scheduled to continue to work on driving adoption is amazing. I just appreciate the time that they're putting into this. So, we have to, but we can't, sometimes the administration sends mixed messages. And so if we tell people go get vaccinated because we can return life back to normal, then we need to be able to return back to normal. And so we're in a good place. I think we're about 13th in the country for the number of Iowans that have been fully vaccinated. That's good. We can do better, and we're going to. And so I think we've set some benchmarks going forward, and it's a benchmark that we've set, so we're going to do everything we can to hit it.
Governor, with the broadband, I know you got to wait on a lot of clarification from the feds on what can be used and broadband, since it's a longer term project. Is the plan, so it's $100 million state, would the plan be for you to slide in some federal money if you get permission, and if so, then sort of a part B on that, but can we get reimbursed on the state side and maybe?
No,
Okay.
No, it would be an addition. So originally I asked for 150. We know from the projections from the Economic Recovery Advisory Board kind of what we thought it would take to hit the mark that we're trying to hit when you leverage in private sector funding. And so I asked for $150 million over the next 3 years. We agreed on $100 million because I believe I can supplement that $100 million with some federal funds that would get me to the $150. And I believe we'll have additional funding going forward. Part of the problem with the first go around, if you remember, is we had to allocate those funds within a year. And just resources are tough right now. And so when you have everybody looking at building out broadband, and with the pandemic and the supply chain, it was kind of tough. And so they were having trouble meeting that 1 year benchmark. Well, they decided to extend it for another year, so we rolled those grants back in. They've since then gone out. And so now we'll add to that the 100, and then hopefully some of the federal funding will then supplement that to get it back up to 150. And we'll take a look at next year where we're at and what we think is the art of the possible moving forward. But we'll have additional funding over and above the $50 million from the federal government from the early projections that we're taking a look at. Another opportunity is, as the administration continues to fund money that's gone out from the original CARES funding, that brings more money back into that pot, if you want to call it, too. And so that is another resource that we might have to utilize for infrastructure as well. But it's jobs and it's connectivity, and it's really, it's just a win-win on so many different areas.
Is there an overlap with the school side? Can't some of that money be used for schools with, as they were trying to?
They got their own funding.
Yeah.
So, with ESSER funds, and I don't know what the second and third rounds have been, but some of that can be used, is carved out for connectivity for schools. So hotspots and things that they can do to enhance their connectivity as well. So, we just need to align all of that and make sure, that might be a temporary solution, and we want to really build out long-term permanent solutions to connectivity across the state. So that's what we'll be working on, conscientious of what they're using for funds in the interim to us building out the infrastructure statewide.
What's your message to legislators on the E15 bill?
Yeah, well, we're going to continue to do everything we can to drive renewable fuels. We lead the country in renewable fuel energy. We're the leading producer of corn, 1 and 2, and soybean, and so it's a really important industry to the state. We have made some expansions. We've worked to build out the infrastructure so we can, drive higher blends of ethanol and biodiesel. In addition to that, we're hoping we get a positive Supreme Court ruling and so that would be very beneficial for the industry moving forward. But we're going to continue to drive an industry that's important to the state of Iowa. We'll just continue to look for ways to make that happen.
But it sounds like that bill's not moving.
Well, if it doesn't, unfortunately, I don't get everything I want. I try my hardest, but it's just a reality of the legislative process. So we won't give up on it, but if I can't get it through, we'll continue to look for ways that we can continue to build the industry. Again, that's renewable infrastructure, that's that program. If we increase some of the funding in that, we take a look at some of the tax credits. And then what I will do is I will convene all of the stakeholders again over the interim, and we will continue to have the conversation. We should be partners in this. And so we'll sit down at the table, and we're going to try to figure out. And I've already talked to different stakeholders and have indicated this is my intent. And let's see what we can do, and maybe come back next year in a unified position that will create a better environment for us to get
Governor,
that
can I
done.
ask you a quick response to the fence around Terrace Hill? I mean, for the first time in history, I guess there's a need for more security there.
Yeah, well, it's something that you're seeing all across the country. We're actually only one of a couple states that don't. After 9/11, most of the states with federal funding was able to make a decision to do that. And so, I respect the Department of Public Safety and their really encouragement to get that done, and I think it's probably the right thing to do. Nothing will change. It's still the people's house, and we'll continue to do tours, and it will continue to be open. But, I'm not going to second guess their recommendation to have it done, and obviously every other state but one or two have made that same decision.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Can you say more about why some businesses